My name is Tony DeMeo, and I'm Sheriff of Nye County. I'm the elected constitutional office holder for Nye County Sheriff's Office. I came to Nevada after retirement from New Jersey, Jersey Police Department. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, as you can tell. I'm not from these parts. Came out here to retire. I got involved again in law enforcement, serving as a deputy. Subsequently, I ran for sheriff, and I was elected sheriff in 2002 and began serving my term as sheriff since 2003. I'm right now in my second term. One of the responsibilities we have as a constitutional office holders is ensuring that our people, our deputies, and those that are within Nye County, especially those in law enforcement, observe the Constitution, because that is the law of the land. We also have a state constitution as well, which we're also responsible for upholding. One of the great responsibilities that we have is protection of our constituency, and sometimes that involves being the buffer and intermediary with the federal government. In Pahrump Valley, where we are right now, we deal with typical law enforcement issues, that being calls for service involving disputes, calls for service involving property theft, those involving crimes against the people. Up in northern Nye County, we deal with other issues that are different than typical law enforcement, which is I'm used to dealing with in a city. That would be dealing with BLM, the U.S. Forestry Service, ranching issues, water right issues. We still have, sometimes we have cattle rustling. The area which we have some of the issues and some of the conflicts with our federal authorities would be a Pine Creek Ranch. Wayne Hage bought his ranch quite some time ago, and that was a lifelong dream. He went to college. He started working a ranch. He actually dropped out of school to work a ranch, and he loved it so much that he decided that his lifelong dream was to own a ranch. Him and his wife Jean and the children bought what is known as Pine Creek Ranch, which is a patented land of 7,000 acres, but it's an allotment of 700,000 acres. And to give you an idea how big that is, that's 1,100 square miles, about 1,100 square miles of allotments that he has to run a couple, 2,000 head of cattle. And in order to operate any type of business, you need water rights. You need some ability to actually get your water. If you're not connected to a public utilities, which Pahrump is, majority of the water that's given to or taken from residents is from underground. Wayne Hage was kind of surprised that the U.S. Forestry Service was interested in his water rights, and he contacted the state water authority, and which actually controls the water rights. They know where all the water rights are and who owns them. It's like owning land, so to speak. And he was informed that the federal government, U.S. Forestry Service, was actually in the process of actually filing for his water rights. And in order for Wayne Hage to conduct his cattle business, he needs water rights. If you don't have water rights, you can't conduct your cattle business, and if you don't have a cattle business, you can't utilize your water rights. So this is what Wayne Hage believed was a way for the federal government to shut down his ranching operation. The issues, as I see in Nevada, especially in Nye County, especially dealing with Wayne Hage, was that these are water issues. They actually have to deal with water right issues, and in Nevada, if you can't show any beneficial use for your water rights, you actually lose them. After 5 years, if you can't show that you actually need those water rights and that you actually lose them, and they revert to the state, and then the state decides who's going to get those water rights. Wayne Hage was going back and forth with the federal government as far as his water rights until 1991, when he was surrounded by the U.S. federal government with agents. Fully armed, wearing flak vests, and some perched on high areas of high ground areas, and contacted Wayne Hage and told him that they were in the process of seizing his cattle. And at that time, cattle was removed from the Pine Creek Ranch, and Wayne Hage at that time was filing against the federal government. Actually, started a case against the federal government, which he filed in the U.S. Claims Court. And since 1991, he's had these conflicts with the BLM and conflicts with the U.S. Forestry Service, up until even to this day. We're in 2009. Sadly, in 2006, Wayne Hayes succumbed to natural causes and he died. Shortly after his death, though, I got a phone call from a representative, the special agent in charge of the Nevada office for the U.S. Forestry Service. And at that time, the SAC informed me that she has come to a resolution how we can manage and take care of Wayne Hayes' problems with the cattle and the seizure and the federal managed lands, which it's public lands. It's not really, they're not owned by the federal government. They're actually public lands, which are owned by the people. The federal government under the BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management, which was formed in 1946. From the combination of the Grazing Office and the General Land Office, formed this management office. The federal government doesn't own the lands; are actually within the state of Nevada. The state of Nevada, as I understand, hasn't given those lands to the federal government. They're within the state of Nevada, and I believe the state of Nevada actually has sovereignty in those lands. That's my belief, what's I believe as far as the states' rights issues and the 10th Amendment. See. So when my conversation with Ms. Matthews, the SAC, where I was informed that she was in the process of actually getting ready to do a cattle seizure or attempt to do a cattle seizure on behalf of the U.S. Forestry Service, I asked her to, I told her, I said, listen, Wayne Hayes isn't cold in the ground yet. He died a little more than a month ago. And this meeting happened in the middle of July. And I asked her why she was in the process of actually, considering this option, and especially when I told her that the case is in the U.S. Claims Court, and the judge is overseeing this, and I believe that the federal government should actually hold off any type of a cattle seizure, any kind of a seizure at all, until this case is settled in a proper venue, which is the court. And at that time, she said that she had some great ideas and that she would be willing to meet with me. I had a meeting with her a couple weeks later in the office here in Pahrump, Nevada, and attending that meeting was the area commander of this Southern Area Command, Captain Bill Beck, which at that time we explained to her what the Constitution stood for and why we weren't going to allow them to do a cattle seizure without intervention from the county sheriff's office. I informed her that we have a responsibility to protect the constitutional rights of our citizens. I expect my deputies to protect the constitutional rights of our citizens, and I expect that the federal government also, which is responsible for the Constitution, falling under the law of the land, should also respect the Constitution as well. And during the conversation, I asked Ms. Matthews, who did she work for? And she said, she works for the U.S. Forestry Service. I said, no, who's the authority that you derive your authority from? And at that time she said the U.S. Congress. And then I informed her that that's not the right answer, that in law enforcement and in government, we govern by the consent of the people that we govern. My badge doesn't give me authority to govern as a sheriff. I get the authority to govern by the people who put me in office. We, in every policing agency, we understand that the power that we have, authority that we have, emanates from the people who we serve. It doesn't come from us. It doesn't come from the government. It comes from the people we serve. Our forefathers were very clear in plain language to state that in our Declaration of Independence and plus our Constitution, and laying out the amendments to the Bill of Rights that follows the Constitution and in the Articles of the Constitution. That I informed Ms. Daniel that there be no unlawful incursions onto Pine Creek Ranch, and that if she had any issues with the landowner and the person responsible for the allotments, Mr. Wayne Hayes, that she can contact the Hayes estate now. She can contact me and be more than happy to assist. The meeting was ended.